Day 86 of the Ride 365, also day 10 of the quarantine here in Rockville, and we are quarantined with this Elsinore 250, no place I'd rather be. What an awesome piece and what a great day. God has blessed us with this beautiful weather, and we are going to enjoy it and take this 250 for a rip. I would like to take it onto the grass and do some hole shots for you, but it's all soft and muddy because it just got unfrozen. It literally snowed here 3 days ago, so I don't want to trash this thing. It's way too nice to take out there. The boys put way too much work into this thing. Looking at the work order here, they put over $4,227 into this thing, top to bottom, labor and parts. It's just been quite a bit of restoration services have been done to it. This is a 1979 model. Total flashback to my youth with Bird Ives Honda. My brother bought one of these in 1979, and we drove the car there. He picked it up and wheelied down the railroad tracks. That was back in the days when you could ride on the railroad tracks, and drove it home to Columbia, 12 miles away. Won a bunch of races in the amateur class on this. This bike dominated. An exciting time to be a racer in the 70s. They went from 1970, the 76 Elsinore had standard shocks on it. It was like light years behind this thing. 2 years later, this is essentially a factory race bike. If you look at the pictures of the Honda RC 250 and 360 factory race bikes, this was virtually a clone. It was a production version of the factory race bike, and it kicks ass. I took it for a ride this morning. The engine's still warm. The exhaust pipe, I can put my hand on it, but it's still warm. Kenny wrote it also, and the thing that popped into my mind, the words that popped into my mind was, it's right as rain. It just feels awesome, and a big part of that has to do with the shocks on it. These are NOS, that means new old stock Honda 250 shocks that we had in our inventory, waiting for the right bike to come along to put them on, and they're very hard to come by. They were replaced with Fox Air shocks by a local pro motocrosser, so they came right off the bike, brand new, and were put on the shelf. They're original 1979 Honda shocks, and the springs are not worn at all, so it feels super tight. The whole bike feels super tight. The brakes, the clutch, the engine, everything's top notch on this thing. The compression tested at a perfect 160 PSI. They put a new spark plug in it, changed the gear loop, rebuilt the carburetor, put a new air filter in it, went through the entire fuel system. The tank was professionally restored, as was the petcock, and fuel lines were replaced. New graphics on it. This paint job was done by my good friend Ed at Mill Street Auto. Ed is probably the best painter in the area. I can attest to that. By do a close-up on this paint job, there's no fisheye or there's no orange peel in it. This tank has not been buffed yet. We were supposed to bring it back and have him buff it. It doesn't really need it, but his shop is shut down due to the quarantine, the non-essential business, coronavirus quarantine. The only reason I would even bring it back is right here. There's a slight, in the paint job right here, there's a little speck of dust got in there, and he would wet sand and buff that off. Unfortunately, his shop is closed. If you buy the bike and you want to wait till he opens, I can send it to him and have him do it. The graphics that are on here are from VMX, and they are not clear coated over, so if you wanted to change the graphic to an OEM Honda one, you could easily do that. We ordered this one because we liked the way it looked. It's just super fresh and a little bit bigger than the OEM one, so it looks fantastic. Paint job's on point. The bike was stripped right down to the frame. It was steam cleaned and power washed, then hand power washed. All the aluminum was polished. The frame was repainted by Doc, and the motor was repainted. The hubs were touched up. And then of course we installed the NOS OEM Honda shocks. Put brand new front fender, brand new rear fender, brand new side panels, brand new graphics on it. The airbox was obviously cleaned. The exhaust pipe was removed and cleaned and painted. We vapor blasted and wire wheeled all the hardware and the small parts. So it was in the detail shop for 16 hours, in the service shop for 8.5 hours. And my friend Ed painted the tank. So if you add up all of the parts and labor, including the paint job, was $1,750, $2,200 in labor plus tax. The whole thing came out to $4,227. That's what the work order reads. The parts list, it's got a brand new set of RC bend, Ricky Carmichael bend, Renthal handlebars, brand new set of period correct Ori grips, brand new OEM style Honda crossbar pad, new clutch lever, new front brake lever. The tires are brand new. Do a real close up on the tires. These are top of the line Dunlop tires, badass looking. They still got the hairy nubs on them. It's only been ridden up and down the driveway. Front and rear tires and tubes are new. The Chain is a 520 by 120 gold chain. We put that on it. It really pops, as you can see in the pictures. The plastic kit is and the paint job is the original Tahitian red VMX top of the line gloss plastics on there. A lot of new hardware. If it's not new, it's OEM original. That was, as we said earlier, vapor blasted. So $1,250 in parts, and a total of 24.5 hours labor to do the restoration services on this bike. So if you have any questions about it, give us a call, 860-454-7024. The current Blue Book value on this bike is $6,710. It's worth every penny of that, having just invested over $4,000 in parts and labor in it. As far as let me take it for a quick ride, and then we'll go over a couple other things. If you have any questions, give us a call. Junior can add in. Junior, actually, I want to ask you your opinion. You rode this bike this morning. We both rode it. What are your thoughts?
Thing absolutely rips. It'll flip right over backwards. This was the bike to have in the late 70s. From a collectability standpoint, at least, the auction results on eBay and at the bigger auctions, they tell all. And these are the bikes that are bringing the money. If it's not an open class late model two-stroke, in this era, what are the bikes that are most desirable in this category? The Honda Red Rocket 250, for several reasons. They're beautiful. You see a lot of amateur restorations done, stuff that you see a lot of these being restored, period. But the ones that are done that are correct and that run as good as they look, and that, I mean, these are the bikes that are bringing the money, guys. Let me turn on the GoPro.
Turn the GoPro on. I'll do a couple laps around the driveway. Give you guys an idea. Again, I'm not going to take this in the dirt. It's just way too soft, and I don't want to trash the bike. The lawn's already trashed, what's left of it. The dominating rider in the 70s in our area was Joe Keller. He was a top pro rider that would actually show up to the Nationals and run in the top 5 regularly at Southwick and Unadilla. And he used to run these stock, bone stock. That's the way he liked them. And something about these shocks, the brand new NOS pair of shocks, they're 50 years old, or excuse me, 41 years old, but they're fresh. So the rear end of the bike feels nice and stiff, and it's got plenty of dampening. So, and it rides nice and high. But a lot of these I've ridden with the Fox shocks, with the blown out seals, and if you look at some of our CR250 videos, usually the ass end's dragging on them because they're all worn out. So these are brand new. I believe they are rebuildable. Seals can be replaced if they start leaking because they are 40-something years old. But just a kick-ass piece. The other thing I want to add about this, the transmission, it shifts. You just barely touch a shift lifter. It shifts. Probably the best shifting 250 two-stroke from the 70s. Hell, I'll put it on par with the latest and last line of two-strokes. It shifts perfectly, and the clutch is on point. Plenty of power. If you don't win in the Vintage Nationals on a Honda CR250 like this one, you messed up. You have no one to blame but yourself. And as far as sex appeal, there's nothing sexier looking than a Honda CR250. Nothing more desirable than this bike from the 70s, except maybe like a Mako Sandspired or 490, but those start at like 10 grand. You can buy one of these in the $6,000 plus or minus range, and they're freaking beautiful. They're only going up in value. Just a kick-ass piece. I can't say enough good about it. And if you Google, if you go on YouTube and punch in Honda CR250 Kaplan cycles, you'll see we've done a dozen of these over the years, and some of them full-on race bikes, some of them stock original restorations like this. I like them stock. I think there's not a lot of value added for the aftermarket performance parts, so the ones that are bringing the money are the original ones. And you can go as crazy as you want with mods. There's all kinds of parts available. I want to point a few things out on it. The original exhaust pipe has got some dings here and here. Those could be taken out by a professional dent magician. And also the front rim. Show them the original front rim where the DID sticker is. There's a small crack in the rim. Very common for this year bike. I've never seen one explode, but I've ridden and raced them with a small crack in it. So the rims are straight, but these are the original spokes and rims, so they're not perfect. The bike speaks for itself, and I just wanted to point out a couple of those things you may not see. Is there any other things we'd want to let someone know about this bike, Junior? That you're welcome to come inspect it yourself. Was refurbished in-house here, but by our guys. Doc hand sanded and painted the motor. The motor was not dismantled because it was in excellent running condition. Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot to add. This came from the Paul Pincinot collection, and if you know who Paul is, if you know anything about motorcycle and hill climb racing, 5-time national champion. The absolutely stunning 99 CR250 that we have came from his collection. He had a lot of vintage bikes. He's in his late 60s, having some health issues, and needed some money, so sold his collection, a big part of it, including the Mako that Kenny got a second in Daytona on. All his bikes mechanically were dime pieces because he was a 5-time national champion hill climber, and he was also a mechanic. He had a repair shop, so all the motors were, tip top on his bike, so we didn't need to do anything to it. It was perfect. We just did the cosmetics and added the shocks and some other stuff. So it didn't need a motor rest, though. The motor is tight.
Yeah, I think the bike is best described as a correct restoration using many of the original components. So the original tank's been repainted. Nice set of reproduction plastics, the best on the market today. Complete race tune-up, so the bike can be taken to the Vintage Nationals today. But it's using some original components, original forks, a little bit of patina on the fork lowers, and the original wheel set, which is straight. And honestly, we wouldn't swap these out. The wheel set, a little crack in the front wheel, nothing really to be concerned about. I'd take it to MX Rewind the way it is right now.
The original pegs, the original brake lever, the original shifter, everything's nice and straight on the bike, indicating Paul, didn't ride it much. He was hill climbing. He didn't ride off-road, didn't race. He never raced motocross, ever. He just had these to ride around his farm.
Everything you just mentioned, it's all original componentry.
Good luck bidding on it. It's definitely Kaplan America approved. God bless America. Be safe. It's a 10. It's a 10. Kyle, can you put this in the listed area, please? What a kick-ass piece, man. She's a ripper. Absolute ripper.